The woman in the raincoat. The storm rolled over downtown like a warning. The skies above Manhattan were a heavy gray, thick with rain that tapped relentlessly against the roof of the prestigious Lutheran Bay Hotel, a place where only the elite dared to dine, drink, and discuss deals worth millions. Inside its chandelier-lit restaurant, laughter rang like bells. Waiters in tuxedos swept across the floor, weaving between silk gowns and tailored suits. The scent of aged wine and butter-seared steak filled the air, along with a soft piano tune dancing through invisible speakers. And then, she walked in. A woman in a faded beige raincoat, soaked shoes, hair flat from the rain. No makeup, no designer purse, no glitzy jewelry, just a tote bag with worn handles and eyes that looked like they hadn't slept in days. Heads turned. Conversation slowed. At the corner table near the fireplace, Brandon Kessler, one of New York's richest tech investors, noticed her too. He leaned back in his chair, swirling his wine glass with theatrical flair. Tall, arrogant, and always 5 steps overdressed, Brandon lived for these moments. Any chance to dominate the room, to remind everyone of who mattered and who didn't. "Someone get the janitor," he said loudly enough for the room to hear. "She looks like she took the wrong door out of the subway." The room chuckled. Polite laughter from polite people, too rich to protest, too spineless to stop him. The woman didn't flinch. She walked calmly to the host's stand, handed her name, and said, "I believe I have a reservation under Lena Matthews." The hostess blinked, glancing at her screen. A small, confused smile formed on her lips. "Oh, yes. Of course. Right this way." As the woman followed the hostess, Brandon whispered to his dinner guests. 2 real estate tycoons and 1 ex-model turned luxury brand ambassador. Reservation under Matthews. Maybe she's the nanny of the real guest. More laughter. She was seated, center of the room, right beneath the grand chandelier. Brandon blinked. That table was typically reserved for VIPs only, personal friends of the owner, politicians, billionaires. How the hell did she get that? Brandon couldn't resist. He stood, picking up his drink and striding across the room with the smug confidence of a man who'd never been told no. His dark, custom-made jacket flowed behind him like a cape. "You know," he began casually as he stopped at her table, "it's really refreshing to see someone keeping things minimalist. That coat from a thrift shop." The woman looked up slowly. Her eyes were steady, calm. "No, it's from the war." Brandon chuckled. "What war?" "The one against fashion." Another wave of laughter from the nearby tables. Even a waiter stifled a grin as he passed by. The woman didn't smile. She reached for her glass of water. "Mocking strangers must be exhausting," she said quietly. "Do you do it because you're bored or because you're afraid someone might see who you really are?" Brandon blinked. That hit differently. "I'm sorry, who even are you?" he asked with a smirk. "You act like you belong here. You don't. This place has a standard." She said, calmly wiping her fingers on her napkin. "And you believe you represent that standard." Brandon leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Let's be honest. You walk in here like a drowned rat, expect to sit at the most exclusive table in Manhattan, and think no one will notice. Sweetheart, in my world, image is everything." She met his eyes again, this time not just with calm, but with intent. "You're absolutely right. In your world, image is everything. But not everyone lives in your world." "Clearly," he muttered. "So why are you here?" The woman leaned forward just a little. "Tell me something. Do you always try to humiliate women in public, or do you save that for your assistants and waitstaff?" The words landed like a punch. The restaurant had fallen completely silent. All eyes were on them. The pianist had stopped mid-song. Waiters froze mid-pour. Brandon straightened up. "Watch your tone." But before he could say more, a tall man in a tailored gray suit came jogging toward them from the kitchen, his chef's apron tucked over one shoulder. The owner. "Miss Matthews," he exclaimed. "I had no idea you arrived early. Please forgive the delay. I thought your flight wasn't until tomorrow." He offered both hands to the woman. "How's your mother? And your brother's surgery? Was it a success?" Lena Matthews smiled softly. "Everything's fine, Robert. Thank you." Brandon's mouth fell open. "Wait, you know her?" Robert's expression shifted. Cold. Controlled. "Of course I do. Lena was one of the earliest investors in this hotel. She practically saved my family's business after the 2009 crash." Lena stood slowly. "Brandon Kessler," Robert said, turning to him. "You're the founder of TaskTech, correct?" Brandon blinked. "Yeah, that's right. I read your name on the guest list. I was looking forward to meeting you. But now..." He sighed. "Security, please." Two men in suits approached from either side. Brandon laughed, stunned. "You're serious?" Robert's voice was calm but final. "Very." Mocking the guest. "This guest disqualifies you from being welcome here." Brandon tried to protest, but the security men didn't wait. They simply escorted him out, the entire room watching in stunned silence. Once the doors closed behind him, the quiet exploded into whispers, gasps, and sideways glances. Lena sat again, calm, composed. She picked up her glass, took a sip, and glanced around. "To everyone who laughed," she said softly, "next time, laugh with someone, not at them." No one said a word. The pianist quietly resumed his music, and from that moment on, the entire city buzzed with the same question. Who is Lena Matthews? The woman behind the name. The viral clip hit the internet less than an hour after Brandon Kessler's public humiliation. Shaky footage, taken from a hidden angle, captured the full confrontation. The sneer in Brandon's voice, Lena's eerie calm, the owner's dramatic entrance, and Brandon's removal from the restaurant. By sunrise, it was already on every social platform. Billionaire bully gets kicked out for mocking woman in raincoat. She said, "Mock me again." And it changed everything. By noon, hashtags like hashtag Lena Matthews and hashtag Mock Me Again were trending across Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Celebrities shared the clip. News outlets debated it. Podcasts dissected every word. Even late-night comedians used it in their opening monologues. Brandon Kessler, once the golden boy of New York's tech elite, vanished overnight. His company issued a formal apology to anyone offended, and his board called an emergency meeting to review his future. But while Brandon's world cracked, the woman in the raincoat walked on, quietly, purposefully, untouched by the digital storm she'd left behind. Meanwhile, across town, a modest building stood between two glossy skyscrapers in Midtown. Its brick facade was plain. Its plaque read, Matthews Foundation, where second chances begin. Inside, volunteers were prepping for their busiest day of the month, Grant Review Day. Every corner buzzed with activity. Single mothers, immigrants, former inmates, struggling students. Dozens of hopefuls had arrived, clutching folders, waiting to be heard. At the heart of it all sat Lena Matthews. Gone was the raincoat. Today, she wore a simple navy blouse and slacks. Her hair was tied back neatly. No makeup, no jewelry, just clear eyes and a gentle smile that disarmed even the most nervous visitor. "Ms. Matthews," said her assistant, poking her head into the office, "you have a visitor." "Who is it?" The assistant looked nervous. "You might want to see for yourself." Lena stepped out into the hall and froze. Brandon Kessler stood there, looking completely different from the man who had mocked her just days ago. No designer suit, no entourage, no smirk, just jeans, a plain shirt, and eyes that held something he wasn't used to wearing. Humility. Lena didn't speak. I'm not here to cause a scene," Brandon said quickly. I wanted to say something. In person." Her staff stared in disbelief, waiting for her to react. She nodded once. My office. Inside the office, Brandon sat in the chair across from her. He kept his eyes low. His fingers fidgeted. The silence was heavy. I deserved it, he finally muttered. Everything. The backlash. The press. The shame. You gave me exactly what I gave others for years. Lena didn't answer. She simply watched him. He could barely hold her gaze. I used to think. Image, power, control. That's what mattered, he continued. I built an empire stepping on people. Waiters. Assistants. You. I never even wondered if they had a story. He laughed bitterly. Turns out, they all did. And yours. He looked up, eyes red. I Googled you. Lena raised an eyebrow. You've funded over 200 scholarships, built hospitals in Ghana, donated millions to small-town schools. You grew up homeless, were abused as a teen, and still made it through Harvard Law and MIT. She said nothing. Just let the silence work like truth serum. You could have destroyed me, he whispered. Sued me. Embarrassed me in front of the media. But you didn't. No, she finally replied, her voice calm, steady. Because it was never about you. He looked at her, confused. It wasn't about revenge, Brandon. It was about reminding everyone that dignity doesn't wear Prada. That kindness isn't exclusive. That people matter, no matter what they look like. She leaned forward slightly. You humiliated me in front of strangers. I could have responded in kind. But then I'd be just like you. He swallowed hard. So what now? Lena paused. That's not up to me, she said. That's up to you. Brandon looked down. I want to fix this. I don't know how, but I want to do better. Lena studied him. There was no performance in his voice this time, no arrogance. She opened a drawer and slid a file across the desk. What's this? He asked. A grant application. Single father of 2. He's trying to start a food delivery service in the Bronx. Needs $15,000. He's got the plan. He just needs someone to believe in him. Brandon blinked. You want me to fund it? No, Lena said. I want you to mentor him. He stared at her, stunned. You built an empire from scratch, she said. He's trying to do the same. Use what you know. Don't just throw money. Show up. Help him. Guide him. Let him ask stupid questions. Teach him what it took you a decade to learn. Brandon nodded slowly. Okay. Yeah, I can do that. Lena smiled faintly. Then we'll talk again in 6 weeks. He rose to leave, hesitating at the door. Why me? He asked. She met his eyes. Because if someone had offered you that chance, years ago, you might have been a very different man. 6 weeks later, Lena stood in a sunlit conference room with her team, reviewing projects. Her phone buzzed. Message from Brandon Kessler. Louis launched his app today. Over 300 signups. Said to tell you thank you for not giving up on someone like me. Lena put the phone down and exhaled deeply. The world was still buzzing about the woman who'd put a billionaire in his place, but she knew the real story wasn't about the viral moment. It was about what came after. Back at Brandon's office, he stood in front of his whiteboard with a young man named Louis, discussing marketing strategies, delivery costs, and customer retention. For the first time in years, he wasn't the smartest man in the room. And that, he realized, was exactly where he needed to be. Across the world. In a refugee camp on the outskirts of Lebanon, a new medical tent had just opened, funded anonymously by the Matthews Foundation. In a quiet town in Iowa, a high school marching band played with brand new instruments after their music program was saved by an unknown donor. And in a corporate boardroom in New York, a woman in a simple blouse signed another check, with no cameras, no press, and no need for applause. The quiet power of one. 3 months had passed since the night Lena Matthews calmly dismantled Brandon Kessler's ego in the middle of one of Manhattan's most exclusive restaurants. Since then, The media storm had quieted. The hashtags had stopped trending. The public, as always, had moved on. But something far more meaningful remained: change. Brandon didn't disappear from public life. He did something rarer. He stayed. He didn't post apology videos, didn't hire a PR firm to rebrand. Instead, he shut up, rolled up his sleeves, and showed up, day after day, at food banks, youth shelters, community halls where no one wore suits and no one cared about stock portfolios. And everywhere he went, he listened. He learned that respect isn't earned by the zeros on your bank account, but by how you treat the people with none. And he never forgot the woman who had changed everything with just 3 words: "Mock me again." One Thursday afternoon, the Matthews Foundation's main office buzzed with activity. On the 4th floor, Lena sat in a conference room, reviewing final plans for a school project in South Sudan. A young intern burst in, breathless. "Miss Matthews, there's something you should see." Lena looked up calmly. "Is it urgent?" "Yes, very." She followed him to the lobby, where a crowd of staff and volunteers had gathered around the TV. A press conference was playing live. Brandon Kessler stood at a podium with a simple blue backdrop behind him that read, "Humility First Foundation, Launch Day." Lena raised an eyebrow. On screen, Brandon looked different. No expensive watch. No ego. Just a man with a microphone and a mission. "There was a time," he began, "when I believed I had everything. Power, success, influence. But I was poor in the things that actually matter. Kindness, empathy, respect." He looked down, then back up. 3 months ago, I mocked a woman I thought was beneath me. That moment changed my life. Not because of the backlash, but because of her grace. A photo of Lena, taken by someone the night of the restaurant confrontation, flashed on the screen behind him. Lena's team turned to her, eyes wide. She said nothing. "I spent the last few months learning, giving, failing, listening. And today, I'm proud to announce a partnership between the Humility First Foundation and over 30 organizations dedicated to education, second chances, and restoring dignity." He cleared his throat. "And I want to thank the woman who made it all possible, Lena Matthews. I hope she's watching. I hope she knows this isn't just for show. It's a promise to never again mistake appearance for worth, and to live the rest of my life building people up, not tearing them down." Applause erupted from the crowd on the screen. Lena watched quietly, her hands folded in front of her. Someone near her whispered, "He actually meant it." She nodded once. Yes, he did. Later that evening, a private event was held at a modest art gallery in Brooklyn. The walls were covered with paintings and photographs donated by underprivileged artists the Matthews Foundation had supported over the years. It wasn't glamorous. No red carpets. No paparazzi. Just impact. Lena stood near a display of portraits, sipping tea. A young woman in a red headscarf approached her shyly. "Excuse me. Are you Lena?" "I am. My name is Amal. I just wanted to say thank you. You don't know me, but your scholarship helped me get through nursing school. I graduate next month." Lena smiled gently. "I'm proud of you." Amal beamed, then hesitated. "Can I ask, how did you get here? I mean, from where you started?" Lena looked around the room, taking in the laughter, the warmth, the art. "I didn't get here despite the pain," she said slowly. "I got here because of it. Every insult, every hardship, every door slammed in my face taught me something. And I never forgot what it felt like to be invisible." She turned back to Amal. "So now, I try to see the ones no one else sees." Across the city, Brandon Kessler sat on a rooftop terrace in Harlem, surrounded by kids from a coding camp he had helped fund. They grilled him with questions. "Is it true you once owned 5 Teslas? Do you miss being rich? Are you still friends with that lady who roasted you in the restaurant?" He chuckled. I still have money, he said honestly, but I don't measure wealth the same anymore. He looked at the youngest kid, maybe 10 years old, with a serious face and big dreams. And no, we're not friends, Brandon said, a little wistfully. But she changed my life. So I guess, in a way, she's more than that. Weeks later, Lena sat alone on a park bench, feeding birds. She came here often. It was quiet, peaceful, a place where no one knew who she was. A familiar voice broke the silence. Didn't expect to find you here. She turned. Brandon stood a few feet away, holding a small paper bag of seeds. You tracked me down. Not really, he said, sitting beside her. Antonio mentioned you came here sometimes. I figured I'd try my luck. They sat in silence, birds fluttering at their feet. You did good work, Lena said at last. The foundation, the partnerships, the change. Brandon smiled. You showed me where to start. They sat quietly, the wind brushing through the trees. I spent so long being loud, he murmured, trying to prove something. Now I'm learning. Quiet doesn't mean weak. Lena looked at him. No, quiet means power, controlled. He nodded. I just wanted to say thank you. In person. Again. She smiled faintly. You're welcome. They sat there for a long time. No words needed. Two people from different worlds, changed by one moment of truth. Epilogue. A legacy, not a trend. 10 years later, a book hit the shelves. Mock Me Again. How a Quiet Woman Changed the Loudest Man in the Room. By Brandon Kessler. In it, he told the story not just of his fall, but of his rise, and of the woman who taught him that grace can be sharper than cruelty. That kindness, when wrapped in calm resolve, can shatter arrogance louder than rage. The book became a bestseller. Proceeds went entirely to the Matthews Foundation. And Lena, she never changed her routine. She still rode the subway, still wore simple clothes, still drank tea with volunteers and laughed at children's jokes. She never wanted to be famous. She just wanted people to understand one thing. True power doesn't scream, it whispers. And when it speaks, the world listens.